And welcome back. Every Tuesday this month, we're going to be spending some time with plugged-in young people, members of Young Leaders of Northeast Indiana, getting their thoughts on election 2014. So let's go ahead and get things started. How do you, all of you being in your 20s and 30s, think you view politics differently than the generation that preceded you?
I think the biggest difference between us and my parents is that we have so much access to what's happening in the world with Twitter, with the social media, Facebook. We're getting the news straight from the source versus when our parents were just getting it on the news.
Studies are indicating that millennials are actually the most altruistic generation in a very long time. And when we look at political issues, we're not just looking at what benefits us personally, but we're looking at what benefits the community at large and the world at large.
When you talk to parents and grandparents, they often identify with a party. And now millennials are much more in between, social conservative or social liberal versus Republican or Democrat, something like that. So you hear different terminology, I think, now.
Why? I mean, have the parties turned you all off?
I think people don't fit into those boxes as easily as they did before, and I think it goes to what everyone's already saying about there's more information out there and it's more easily available to people.
For someone coming into the political system fresh or understanding the voting rights, I see we're really wasting our democracy a little bit when we get caught up in that I am this party and whatever that party stands for, I'm going to go against.
Generally, younger people seem to think that the differences that matter happen at the cultural level or the religious level or the family level. I mean, I know I've been in this business for more than 20 years, and the longer I cover politics, the less I like it and the less I really think it can get anything done. Are you concerned about apathy, Zubair?
Yeah, I think because also, the majority of the millennials, they're in major student debt, and most have not found jobs. So their main concern is finding a job and trying to pay their student debt out. So most of those people would not care about politics. So that's why in the last election we had 12%. Most younger people did not show up to vote. I mean, that's a big problem.
But you would all agree that politics isn't the most important thing. Those other levels that I talked about are probably just as, if not more important. So why should your generation vote?
Because that's how we influence and make change. I mean, if I'm sick of the status quo is not going to change if I'm just sitting at home. And that's really, a message that when I talk to people, that you take it for granted being born here, that you have this birthright of voting. You don't appreciate it unless you actually gain it. And coming in at an older age and having that ability, it's such a tremendous value.
We have a responsibility to vote. We have a responsibility to hold our elected officials accountable. If they say they're going to do something and they don't do it, it's our responsibility to call them on the carpet and say, you told us you were going to do this and you didn't do it. That means we're going to find somebody to replace you.
I understand millennials' distaste for politics. Politics in our country has gotten so divisive. And so everything is reduced to a soundbite and what sounds great. But millennials, we're really the most educated generation in our country in terms of percent that have gone to college. And so we're all smart enough to see through the sound bites. We don't like being talked down to.
And that happens.
Yes.
The older generations tend to talk down
That's
to you
exactly
or pander
it.
to you.
Yep, we're smart enough to understand things. And when people don't take the time to explain to millennials complicated concepts, then millennials get turned off and don't want to participate. So I think it's important for political leaders to understand that the same old political tactics just won't work with the millennial generation.
We want to thank also YL&I as well as One Lucky Guitar, which is providing our studio for these. We'll be back with more next Tuesday.